manipulated his own thought patterns into thinking that this is reality.
Right.
But if that's the case, there's some kernel. Maybe it's buried deep down, but there's no way he, when push comes to shove, when the rubber hits the road, actually thinks this is true, especially when he goes on to say the things that he does.
I wanted to make a response video to this whole situation. And my goal behind it was to explain myself and explain what was going on. But when I got online, something in my brain clicked. And I wasn't the normal Billy. I wasn't the peaceful, calm, zen Billy. Now, I wasn't cursing and screaming because that's not me either. But I was making a lot of pompous statements. I was kind of boasting and bragging because, like, for example, one of the gentlemen, I found out he lives in, or was at least at one point, living on his mom's couch. So I was bragging about, I'm in this nice big house and this guy's on a couch, and, some of the people had attacked us. I said they're just dumb, poor people, and it's not that I really meant that. I felt like, you ever get so angry that there's nothing you can do to get the anger out. There's nobody you can grab. There's nobody you can yell at. You can't get, because they're so far, they're spread out. You can't get in anybody's face. And so the only form of attack I had was my own mouth. And so I used it in a very boastful and pompous way. And it didn't go off too good with a lot of the people that know me, know who I am, that fell in love with forbidden knowledge of my work. So it just didn't go over too well. The video was up for a couple of days.
How far after the podcast is this that you posted the video?
This probably was maybe 3 or 4 days after it went out. Well, they don't realize not only are they not ending my career, they're making me more famous because they call my name out every 5 minutes. I'm on their tongue and their lips every minute of the day. When they go to sleep, they dream about me. When they wake up, the first thing they do before they kiss their wife or their boyfriend, they talk about me. They post me and call my name 24 hours a day, nonstop. They're absolutely infatuated with me. And because of that, and because of what they have done now, they have created this whole energy field. That's what's behind me now, this flower of life energy. They've created this energy. There's only one force that exists in the entire known universe. One force, one consciousness. There's only one.
He's alluding to sorcery is what he's doing right now. And he's actually not wrong in what he means by cultivating people's energy. But this is dark. It's one thing to want people to like pray for you and things like that. But he's actually alluding to real sorcery, which is just...
I don't know how somebody would take what he said and turn it into sorcery. I think what he was talking about is turning negative energy that people send to you into positivity. And that's actually called spiritual alchemy, turning lead into gold in its truest sense. It has nothing to do with sorcery. I do agree with the force that is behind the false light and darkness, but that's not what was being proposed here. To call this sorcery is exactly what Anton says he doesn't like when people do in another video he made, when people call everything demonic. But he's doing that because he's trying to get people on board with thinking Billy's dangerous because Anton did certain new age practices that led him astray into dark and demonic things, and he wants to save people from these false things, but he's not saying what false things that led him down this road. He needs to be pointing out specific things and not making a blanket statement and calling this dangerous or sorcery, because I don't see it as that at all.
And what he goes on to say, like how he's deciding to use that power, a lot of occultists believe power is, they believe it's a neutral force and the vessel influences whether it's good or bad. I used to believe that same thing, but I actually found out, no, the source of power they're pulling from is actually dark, and some people can use it for light, but the source is dark. So it's just you're playing with fire. But that comment to me, just like that's when I actually turned this off because I was like, oof.
Most people are aware of the story from the Exodus where the 10 plagues inflicted on Egypt have finally resulted in Pharaoh letting the slaves free, and the Israelites making their way out of Egypt reach an impasse at the Red Sea. This is just one of many stories in the Torah of Moses using his staff to perform a miracle. Exodus 14 verses 15 through 21. And Yahweh said to Moses, "Why do you cry out to me? Speak to the Israelites so that they set out. And you, lift up your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it so that the Israelites can go in the middle of the sea on the dry land." And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and Yahweh moved the sea with a strong east wind all night, and he made the sea become dry ground, and the waters were divided. While the Israelites are out in the desert, the Amalekites, a tribe that inhabited the Negev, swept in to attack them. Exodus 17 verses 8 through 13 reads, "And Amalek came and fought with Israel at Rephidim. And Moses said to Joshua, Choose men for us, and go out, fight against Amalek tomorrow. I will be standing on the top of the hill, and the staff of God will be in my hand." And Joshua did as Moses had said to him, to fight with Amalek. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. And when Moses raised his hand, Israel would prevail. But when he rested his hand, Amalek would prevail. But the hands of Moses were heavy, and they took a stone, and placed it under him, and he sat on it. Aaron and Hur supported his hands, one on each side, and his hands were steady until sundown. And Joshua defeated Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. So the success of the Israelites in battle was tied to the power of Moses' staff. And what's important to note is that Yahweh did not command Moses to oversee the battle in this way. It was Moses' idea, and he was assisted by Aaron and Hur. And ultimately Joshua and his army prevailed with the aid of the staff. This next story is where the Israelites are again out in the desert and they're thirsty. It actually takes place right before the battle we just discussed a moment ago. God tells Moses that he can make a wellspring for them to drink from by tapping a rock. Exodus 17 verse 6. "Look, I will be standing before you there on the rock in Horeb, and you will strike the rock, and the water will come out from it, and the people will drink." And Moses did so before the eyes of the elders of Israel. A similar story is presented in the book of Numbers, but this one is most intriguing, as we shall find out. Numbers chapter 20, verses 8 through 12. "Take the staff and summon the community, you and Aaron your brother, and speak to the rock before their eyes, and it will give water. Bring out for them water from the rock, and let the community and their livestock drink." So Moses took the staff from before Yahweh just as he commanded him. And Moses and Aaron summoned the assembly to the presence of the rock. And he said to them, "Please listen, you rebels. Can we bring out water for you from this rock?" Then Moses lifted up his hand and struck the rock with his staff twice. And abundant water came out, and the community and their livestock drank. But Yahweh said to Moses and Aaron, "Because you have not trusted in me to regard me as holy in the sight of the Israelites, you will not bring this assembly into the land that I have given to them." So Yahweh told them to simply speak to the rock, but they struck it with the staff. Either way, whether or not it's Yahweh's commanding them to make water spring from the rock by using a staff, this passage in Numbers chapter 20 brings up a highly intriguing question, since in this case they used the staff against the rock in a way that God did not command. In fact, this is explicitly done against the manner Yahweh commanded, and it is against his will. Yahweh admonishes them, yet the miracle still worked. This is highly suggestive that the staff itself does have magical properties, or at least as a tool which taps into and channels the meta-divine.
And that one force can be used for darkness and it can be used for light. Just like the Jedi. The Jedi will use the force for dark. The Jedi will use the force for light, I'm sorry, and the Empire will use the force for darkness. It's up to the wielder of the power. But the true masters know how to turn that dark energy into light.
It might be relevant at this point. It is a good guy color, so.
That's hilarious.
So this is where I'm going to start incorporating some biblical stuff to go along with what Billy was talking about. So here we have Jesus giving the 12 disciples power and authority to drive out demons and to cure diseases. And he tells them, take nothing for the journey, no staff, no wizard staff like Moses, no bag, no bread, no money, no extra shirt. And, you know, he's just telling them when you go into a house, stay there until you leave that town. If people don't welcome you, leave their town and shake the dust off of your feet. So then they set out to heal people. And here, John answered and said, Master, we saw one calling out devils in thy name, and we forbade him, because he followed us not. And Jesus said unto him, forbid him not, for he that is not against us is for us. Because, which also, you know, brings up some questions about, you know, how they say that you can't do this without baptism and without the blessing of Jesus. So how is this person able to do that? Because I believe we all have this innate ability. So then here, they went into Jerusalem and people didn't want to receive Jesus. So the disciples, James and John, saw this and they said to Jesus, should we command fire to come down from heaven and consume them, even as Elias or Elijah did? Same name, different wording. And he turned and rebuked them and said, you know not what manner of spirit you are from, or you are of. For the Son of Man has not come to destroy men's lives, but to save them. So this shows me that they can use their power for bad, and it is a choice of whether you use something for good or for bad.
Wesley, what are your thoughts? I heard Jordan Peterson make an offside comment about Star Wars having undertones of the biblical text and Christianity.
There are these hero motifs. I mean, both C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien discussed this. They were friends. If people don't know that, they were part of a group called the Inklings. They met in Oxford. And I think, of course, there are motifs in things like, you know, that you can draw out in many superhero movies, The Matrix, Superman. Like there are obviously these sort of Messiah savior-esque components.
Right.
I think the difference with something, and I'm pretty sure George Lucas has talked about this. Like the idea of the Force was drawn mostly from Eastern mysticism and kind of the idea of the Tao and there being, you know, a yin and a yang, and it's the balance of those things. Especially if you listen to how the Force is being described, like, yes, there's a clear evil and there's a clear good, but it's almost drawing from the same thing. And like you said before, it's like how the power is used. So I think there are aspects of the fact that all truth is God's truth. St. Augustine actually has this idea where he talks about how even the pagan philosophers had ideas that were obviously true, and he uses the analogy of the Israelites coming out of Egypt, and you know the Israelites took Egyptian gold, and that you know that gold could be used for good, and it's not that the gold is evil, but it's then the way that that's used to twist, and you know they ultimately make it into the calf, right? So.
Oh wow.
So I think of course there are going to be motifs that are going to be true because